Hey guys, good morning. It's Mark from Jerry's Majestic Marine. This is our newest episode of Between the Buoys. Today we're going to be talking with Ted Pankau from the Water Safety Patrol. Morning, Ted.
Morning.
Hopefully you guys can learn a whole bunch more about this organization and what they do for Lake Geneva. This morning we'll be filming on a brand new Regal 2025 LS9 Surf. I even brought out a red boat to match Ted's colors. How about that? Good morning, Ted. I've been lucky enough to call this lake home since I was born. My parents were in the recreation business here, and I grew up on Lake Geneva on a boat. And I've seen your boats on the lake since I've been 2 years old, and always thought you guys were just kind of patrol boats. So before I was 12 years old, my dad would let me grab the wheel of the boat once in a while, and I would steer the boat. And I always saw your boats, I'm like, oh boy, I better go the other way because I don't want to get a ticket. So when I turned 12, I got my boater's license from your staff, and then I could drive my boat myself.
Yeah.
But not everyone knows what you guys do, what you guys are all about, and who you serve on the lake. So I wanted to ask you some questions this morning, learn about your organization and what you guys do for Lake Geneva.
Okay.
For those of us who are not familiar, what is Water Safety Patrol and how did it get started?
Well, it got started a long time ago, actually. We're 105 years old now. It started in 1920 by a guy named Simeon B. Chapin. And he lived on the lake here, and the lake was starting to grow in popularity with a lot more people coming up from specifically Chicago area and other parts of Illinois and Wisconsin. And they had noticed some trends on the lake of things that were becoming more and more dangerous. More and more people using the lake, swimming, boating, things like that. So they wanted to form an organization that was kind of responsible for watching out for people's safety. They had had some accidents back in the day and some drownings and things like that, and they were trying to take some steps to reduce those. So they started in 1920 by hiring some lifeguards and some swimming instructors at some of the beaches around here. And the idea was, hey, if we can teach people how to swim, we'll have fewer drownings. If we can have some lifeguards at the beaches kind of watching out for people, we'll have fewer drownings. So that's how it all started out. And then a few years later is when they expanded into a boat patrol. They got their first patrol boat in 1925, and that boat would go out and assist people as if they got in trouble out on the water. They would assist boaters in distress. They would respond to a call for help, rescue call, anything like that.
So that was 100 years ago you got your first boat.
Yeah,
That's phenomenal.
And then it's just continued to grow to what it is today. It still has the same mission that it did back in 1920, which was to try to keep Geneva Lake as safe as possible. We kind of do it through a three-pronged attack. So we have our lifeguard services at the beaches. We have our boat patrol that's out patrolling all summer and responding to rescue calls and boater assistance calls. And then we have the third prong, which is our educational programs. And those consist of both boat safety classes, like you mentioned that you took as a kid, and our swim lesson program. We have swim lessons for kids of all different ages and skill levels.
And those are at the beaches, Ted, or
yeah, we have swim lessons at 6 different beaches around Geneva Lake. So it ranges from pre-beginner all the way up through advanced swimmer, and including lifeguard training. We train lifeguards as well.
So how many boats are in your fleet today?
As of now, we are up to 7 patrol boats. They're all fully equipped, state-of-the-art rescue boats, have all the latest rescue gear on them and things like that. And then we, of course, have fully trained crew members that operate those boats and are crew members on those boats. So they train constantly for different types of scenarios on the lake. Those scenarios can range anywhere from a very serious rescue call involving a boat accident, for instance, or something maybe less serious like boat tows and things like that they do a lot of when boats run into difficulty on the lake. Maybe it's something as simple as running out of gas, maybe it's needing a battery jump, or maybe it's something else where we need to tow a boat in. So they work on those skills all throughout the summer, and they're prepared to handle whatever comes their way.
That's great. I personally learned how to swim with your program when I was a child.
Yeah.
And we used to have, there was always a race every year in Lake Geneva between the two piers down there.
Yeah.
And that's what got me involved in the swim team. So basically, because of what you guys did for me as a child, and then these little races that you guys had at the beach, I joined the swim team when I was 10 years old in Lake Geneva. And swam all the way through college, collegiate All-American, and a national champion because of what you guys did for me as a child. So you guys have 6 beaches you do swim lessons at now, you said, right? So it's all the
Right.
beaches in the lake pretty much?
So yeah, all the public beaches like Lake Geneva, Fontana, Williams Bay, Lynn Pier, and then there's a few private associations dotted around the lake too that we have lessons there too.
Yeah. Well, that is a great program, teaching kids
Yeah.
how to swim and be safe on the lake so that they don't have drownings at the beaches and stuff like that. It's an excellent program. So.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess explain the lessons if you can a little bit more, and what the lessons entail between the beginners and the advanced and how that works out.
Yeah, and, again, going back to the founding fathers of the patrol, felt like it was very important to teach people how to swim in order to reduce the number of drownings on the lake. So we still maintain that same goal. And by the way, they did it back in the day for free. They did not charge for those lessons. Today, it's not quite free, but it's still like really affordable.
Great.
We do everything possible to keep these lessons affordable for everybody. They're super cheap for a whole summer's worth of lessons. And we still have a policy. If somebody has difficulty paying for them, we don't turn anybody away based on an inability to pay for them. Anybody that wants to take swim lessons, we figure out a way to make it happen. We have a lot of angel sponsors who help us out with scholarship funding for people who need that to take swim lessons, because we want to make sure that they're offered for everybody.
Great.
And like I said, we start them as young as 1 year old. So we'll get 1 year olds out there just to kind of get them acclimated to the water. We call it a parent toddler class, where the parent is in the water with them, getting them used to the water so they're not definitely afraid of it. And then we go up from there with beginner levels that start at 3 year old, where they're no longer with the parent now, they're with the instructor at 3 years old. And then they just keep progressing up the ladder to intermediate levels, swimmer levels, advanced swimmer levels, till they reach the top of the chain. And then some of them decide they want to go further and become lifeguards, so they can take our lifeguard training class. And that's for the real elite swimmers, the ones who are very serious not only about swimming, but they're serious about wanting to take on the responsibility of helping to protect this lake and saving lives.
That's a great program. So like as a parent, how do I get my child enrolled or signed up in the swimming lesson program for, like, say, next summer or something?
Yeah, we get hundreds of them every summer. Actually, we have 700 to 800 students every summer that come through these classes. And it's very easy to sign up. They just go through our website. They can get all the information on our website, which is watersafetypatrol.org, and they can register. They can find out what time the lessons are, what dates they start, and they can register right there on the website now too. Then. So it's very easy.
That's great.
Yeah.
So how do your staff members get involved in the patrol, or how do you recruit talent, I guess?
A lot of them have similar stories to the one you just told, where they started out taking the swim lessons here on the lake, and some of them competed in those races that you're talking about. I competed in those as well, and that kind of sparked my interest in taking my swimming further as well. But we have a lot of people who did that. They started out taking our swim lessons here, and they just kind of developed an interest not just in swimming, but in Geneva Lake specifically, because Geneva Lake is such a unique spot. And they've taken an interest in doing that, and they want to pass that skill and those memories on to the next generation. So a lot of them want to come back and give kids that same kind of opportunity that they had as kids. And so they join this organization, and they become lifeguards, they become boat crew members, they become swim instructors or boat safety instructors, and they all are very enthusiastic about wanting to pass that on.
So what kind of training is involved, say, for like the boat crew? Like, how do you work yourself up to the boat crew from maybe a lifeguard or something like that?
Right. Yeah. Most of our boat crew members do start out as lifeguards, so you have to have at least those minimum qualifications of taking the lifeguard class, and it's a relatively tough class. It kind of separates people out from those who really have a great ability in swimming and strength to be able to do what a lifeguard has to do. So a lot of people start out as lifeguards on the beaches for the patrol, and then after they've done that for a couple of years, then they kind of see what this organization does as a whole, and they can decide if they want to branch out and maybe pursue either becoming a swim instructor or a boat crew member. If they do go into the boat crew, there is a little bit more advanced training that goes on for boat crew members. We send our boat crew through some first responder training every year. We work with the Mercy Walworth Hospital up here with their EMS program, and some of their EMS instructors come down and spend some time with all of our boat crew members going through some of the more advanced rescue things that we would be involved in that maybe lifeguards wouldn't see on the beaches, but things that we might see more of on the boats, some more serious accidents relating to boat crashes and things like that, so, or medical emergencies as well.
So the boat crew staff is more than boaters. I mean, they're trained to help save a life in an accident with a propeller or
Right.
a boating accident or
Yes.
something like that, right?
Yeah, and so they go through that training, and they go through scenarios. Once we have that training from, that we get with Mercy Walworth, our boat crew members then go out on the water in our boats and practice those things that they just learned. So they'll come up with different scenarios on the lake, and they'll say, okay, let's say that we have to respond to a medical emergency. We get a call for somebody that's in a boat that's maybe having a possible heart attack or something like that. Let's go through all the steps. And so sometimes we'll get somebody out here in a boat to be a victim and pretend they're having heart attack symptoms or something, and our boat will pull up to them, and the crew members will jump on and do the things that they're trained to do to help that person, kind of be an intermediary, because we have to get that person to a higher level of care as quickly as possible. So that's one of the things we work on. We're kind of like the middleman between what might happen out here and the rescue squad on shore. So sometimes in a situation like that, our crew will jump on board. They'll treat the person. We have AED defibrillators on our boats and all kinds of other equipment that we can use, and we can do CPR if we have to, while we're transporting that person to shore to meet up with the rescue squad and get them to a higher level of care.
So basically, as our first responders on
Yeah,
the water, which
right.
is just incredible, yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say your average response time is on, say, like a Saturday from an
Yeah.
accident to when you guys get to the scene?
Well-
is it a half hour or is it a minute? I just
Oh
don't know how
no,
long
we're
it
talking
takes.
minutes. We're talking minutes. So what we like to do, especially on the weekends you mentioned, we'll have more of our boats out here patrolling the lake. And our boat crews are trained to kind of spread out on the lake. So if we have 3 or 4 boats out here at a time, we'll keep one down on the west end of the lake near Fontana. We'll keep another one on the east end near Lake Geneva, another one maybe near Williams Bay, so that if we do get an emergency call, we're never more than a couple minutes away.
That's awesome.
Sometimes seconds. We've had some emergency calls that we've responded to. We've been there in under 30 seconds.
Wow.
So it kind of all depends on where it happens on the lake and where our boat happens to be, but we can have a very quick response time.
Well, I mean, that's incredible. It's a huge body of water, and to respond to an accident within seconds or a minute or two is just incredible. I'm sure it saves a lot of lives, So
It has. It has in the past, and even this summer we've had some instances where our crews have had to respond very quickly, and they've been able to get onto a scene very quickly.
So walk us through like a typical day for an employee of Water Safety Patrol. Like obviously it's going to be different for different parts of your staff.
Right.
But let's just walk us through like a lifeguard day, how that works at the beaches,
Well-
and what they do when they come to work and stuff like that.
Okay, so yeah, a lifeguard's going to report to work. Let's say they're at Williams Bay Beach. They will get in to work. They'll unlock the closet where we keep all of our equipment and our radios. And the first thing they're going to do is pick up that radio and turn it on and talk to our dispatcher at the office. And they're going to call in and let that dispatcher know that they are there at the beach. So our dispatcher keeps everything logged in on a computer all day long as to what all of our lifeguards are doing, what all of our boat crews are doing at every minute of the day. They know what we're doing and where everybody is. So lifeguard will call in on the radio, let the dispatcher know that they're checked in. Then they'll pick up all of the equipment they're going to need out on the beach for that day. Every lifeguard carries a rescue tube with them for the entire shift. They have the radio that they'll have with them, and then they carry their first aid box or first aid kit out to where they're going to be stationed on the lifeguard chair or out on the pier, and they'll have that with them and ready whenever they need it. So then from there they are stationed. One of the public beaches, like I mentioned, Williams Bay, they'll have a couple of lifeguard stands or chairs out there on the beach. So we'll keep one lifeguard in each chair, and then there's a couple of swim piers out there. So when people start swimming and we start getting people out on the swim piers, the lifeguard will have a lifeguard go out on the pier actually with a rescue tube, so that they're there and ready if something happens out there by the piers.
On standby on the pier, yeah.
And then they also have whistles, megaphones, things like that. So if anything happens, they blow that whistle, and the other lifeguards are alerted to know that they might need help, and they might need someone to call in on the radio and get further help. And so they'll call in on that radio. Our boats and beaches are all tied into the same radio frequency, so we hear each other all day long, what each other is doing. And they can call a boat over and get help right away if we need further help.
So Ted, you've been doing this for a couple years, I assume. How long have you been on the patrol as the director of Water Safety Patrol?
Well, I've been the director for 35 years now, and before that I started out as a lifeguard and a boat crew member as well. So been at it for a while. Over
the last 40 plus years, you've seen a lot of things happen, I'm sure. What's one of the craziest incidences that's happened on a lake or at a beach or whatever that you want to share with us today?
Yeah, we've seen quite a few things over those years for sure. I guess one that comes to mind always when people ask about that is my very first rescue call that I was on. It was actually my very first day on the boat crew. We had a call for someone who had fallen off of a big sailboat out here right in the middle of the lake, in one of the deepest parts of the lake, and it was a really windy day with really large waves. And the man had fallen off and didn't resurface. And we arrived on scene, and his wife was hysterical, and we were doing everything we could to do a search. We were in the water searching, and had all our other boats came on scene, and we were conducting a search all over the area looking for this guy, and we didn't find him. And they had all the dive teams and sheriff's departments and everything out here for the days after that doing searches too, but it was in like I said, the deepest part of the lake, and back in those days they didn't have some of the sophisticated sonar and other equipment that they have now. So after a few days of searching, they basically called off the search and just said, he's probably not going to be found. He's on the bottom and probably won't ever be found. So
140 some feet of water.
And I was this kid on boat crew, and I was put in the position of going on the sailboat with this woman and trying to console this wife who just lost her husband. And it was pretty difficult to do, obviously. About 10 years later, somebody called me and alerted me to an article in the Chicago Tribune that said that they had found this guy living alive and well in Arizona. And what had happened is he had faked his death. The wife was in on it.
Oh my goodness.
And they had done this for the insurance money. And he was living a whole separate life in Arizona, and she was living her life. And 10 years later, they found out about it and arrested him and charged him with fraud and everything. And here we are thinking, hey, we had this death on the lake. It was traumatic, very traumatic.
Especially for you as a young man, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it was traumatic for me, being my first day on boat crew, going through all this and trying to console this woman and everything. And she was doing a good acting job on the whole thing. And it was just kind of
that is a
surreal moment.
Story,
yes,
wow.
that's my crazy story.
Wow. So the patrol is not like a government agency. It's obviously you guys are funded by private donations and donors and things like that. So if somebody wants to donate to your organization to help out the Geneva Lake in this area, what's the best way for someone to donate? And is there a fundraiser you guys do every year? Or how do you get all of your money to make this happen for the community?
Yeah, it is. A lot of people do think that it's a government agency. It is not. It's totally a private organization, a nonprofit. And the easiest way to donate really is just to go through our website, which is watersafetypatrol.org. You can go on there and click a button that says donate now, and you're done in 2 minutes. So that's probably the easiest and fastest way to donate to the organization. We do have a big fundraiser every year that we hold. It's a dinner and dance and live auction, silent auction, and all that kind of stuff. And that's a big fundraiser for us each year that is very popular. In fact, it sells out very quickly every year. Very hard to get tickets for.
Yeah, sure. I've been to it a few times, been there. It's a great event, a great evening. It's a great place. You guys raise a lot of money there, which is excellent.
Yeah.
So, but the website, you can go on your website and donate right there to non-for-profit. So that's excellent. Well, thanks for your time today, Ted. And I guess one final question. If there's one thing that every person that comes in Lake Geneva or on a boat should know, what should it be?
Yeah, well, I guess number one would be check your boat thoroughly before you launch it, or before you get in and go for a ride. Check it over thoroughly. Make sure that you have enough life jackets on board for everybody and that they're readily accessible. Because if you need those things, you usually need them in a big hurry. You don't want to be digging around for them in the boat trying to find them. So make sure that they're there and readily accessible for everybody on board. And then check all your equipment. Make sure that your bilge pumps are working. If your boat starts taking on water, you better have a working bilge pump. Make sure that your bilge blower is working. That can help to prevent fires and explosions. Make sure your lights are working. We have a lot of things that go on at night here on the lake, and a lot of times people are out during the day and they stay out when it gets dark, and then they decide to check if their lights are working after it gets dark. You need to check that beforehand because you don't want to be caught out here without lights at night. That's the only thing that other boaters can see at night are your lights. They can't see the profile of your boat. And we've had some bad accidents at night because of that very thing, with people not having the proper lighting on their boats. So just check all that stuff before you go out on the boat. Make sure the plug is in. Might sound simple, but a lot of times people launch their boats without putting the drain plug in. And they go out on the lake and they're out for about 15 or 20 minutes having a great time, and then all of a sudden they realize their boat's full of water. So just simple things like that could just take a couple of minutes to check your boat for safety before you go out.
Those are some great tips, Ted. Yeah. Well, thanks for all your time today, Ted. Really appreciate it. I learned a lot about your organization, and hopefully everyone else does too today. So thanks again, Ted.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It.
Yeah, we appreciate it.